The Celtics just beat the Lakers 126-105. They improved to 14-9 on the season. That's 4 straight wins, and most notably, they are 1 game away from the Eastern Conference's second best record. Never would have guessed this is where they'd be just a couple weeks ago when they started 0-3 and looked to be heading in a completely different direction. So we'll talk about how they got here, what stood out more from this win, all that coming in just a moment.
Jaylen Brown with the flush. Tatum the drive. Tatum the finish. It is banner 18. The mission commanding is mission accomplished.
So I'm here at TD Garden where the Celtics just beat the Lakers. There was no LeBron James, no Luka Doncic, but nevertheless, another team that has the potential of catching you off guard. I mean, how many times have we seen over the last few years a shorthanded opponent comes in or you face a team that's missing their star player, and that's just a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for other players going off, role players having career nights. That is the MO of the NBA, right? And 2 years ago, big time rivalry, Lakers are coming to town, and then everybody finds out LeBron and Anthony Davis are both going to be sidelined. And what happened in that game? The Lakers blew out the Celtics that went on to win the championship, right? But that's the kind of thing that happens in this league all the time. The most fun part, honestly, about covering the Celtics team this season has been that when star players are sidelined, which happens all the time in this league, they don't let up because they are a group filled with guys that are still trying to prove they belong in the NBA. They are still trying to prove they belong in the starting lineup. And so today when I saw the injury report and I saw that LeBron and Luka are both going to be out, I didn't have that same feeling of, okay, so who's going to go crazy? You know, is Gabe Vincent going to go off for 30 the way that I would the last couple of years of covering this team? And this game from the jump was just a bloodbath, right? They go on a massive run to start the game, early 20-point lead. They lead by as many as 29, and they never really look back. The Lakers go on a little bit of a run in that third quarter, but they never really look back, and the Celtics just kind of dominate this one from start to finish. And so, big picture, what I'm learning about this team as the weeks go on, because we're 23 games in, we're still trying to figure out exactly what their strengths and weaknesses are. What I'm learning about them is that they don't really overlook opponents, that night in and night out, they're committed to the process of winning, to playing as hard as possible, to executing. And there have been 2 lapses, I would say, this season. One was against the Utah Jazz, and it was just one half of bad basketball. That second half against the Jazz was very lackluster. And then the game against the Brooklyn Nets, which led Jaylen Brown to sit at the podium and kind of call out his team's effort. And I didn't know, that felt like a turning point moment of the season of Jaylen is kind of saying, you know, we didn't come to ready to play, ready to win. How do you respond to that? Well, the way that they've responded has been quite remarkable, right? They've won 9 of their last 11 games. That's been their record with Jordan Walsh in the starting lineup. And it really stands out to me now that this team is not a team that's going to come in sleeping when Jokic a sideline or Giannis a sideline or whatever else might they be, because they are not taking a game for granted. And now here they are. They're 14-9. It's not like a mind-blowing record, but it's a pretty good spot to be in particular when you started 0-3. I mean, they were 6-7. They felt like they were kind of destined to be an around 500 team all season long. Now they have a pretty nice cushion, you know, being 5 games above 500. And obviously we've talked about what this most recent stretch has held. Wins against the Pistons, the Knicks, the Cavs. They almost beat the Timberwolves, but that was another game that they were competitive. The Magic. And now here are the Lakers. And yes, it wasn't the Lakers that have been dominating the Western Conference, but still, you know, a Lakers team that has Austin Reeves, who's been playing on another level, and some really good pieces around him that have all kind of been maximizing their impact this season. So, big picture, I like this win for Boston because it shows that they are going to win the games that they are supposed to win. And there will be exceptions. That's always the case. Even if you're the best team in the league, there are some nights where you just don't bring it. But for the most part, I feel pretty good about their ability to commit to the process of doing the things that have led them to be a good team so far. And so that was my biggest takeaway watching this game, is that their foot was on the gas. Second night of a back-to-back. We know under Joe Mazzulla, this team has been really good on second nights of a back-to-back. Like, this has been Joe Mazzulla's record for coaching back-to-backs is exceptional. And they took care of business yesterday. They won by 45 against a Wizards team that they should beat. No Jaylen Brown, no problem. And one of the nice things about that game was that nobody except for Peyton Pritchard played more than 30 minutes. And they honestly didn't look pretty tired tonight. They looked pretty well rested. And so I like seeing that because there are going to be 8, 9, 10, if not more games like that this year where they're expecting to play in a marquee game and then kind of the life is sucked out of that game, or the oxygen is sucked out of that game from a media standpoint and from a fan standpoint, but not from a player standpoint. I mean, the first question that Jaylen was asked was, what was your reaction when you heard LeBron and Luka weren't playing? And he was like, we got to get a win. They're not going to be disappointed or bummed out. That's just not the nature of how this team moves. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about today. Second thing I wanted to mention is I'm ready to say that Jaylen Brown is playing at a first-team All-NBA level. And there are always more than 5 guys that play at that level, so that doesn't mean that he's for sure going to be on that team. But night in and night out, he is giving the game what it needs. Tonight, he had another classic game, 30 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. What stands out to me most is just how he is distributing the ball as a playmaker, creating for others. I mean, he's drawing 2 pretty consistently, and then he's just making the right play, making the right read out of that double team. And so a 38-8 night is becoming kind of a normal night for Jaylen. If you look at his last 6 games, he's averaging 33 points and a little over 7 assists and 7 rebounds. In that span, he has 2 40-plus point nights. He has a 19-point triple-double, but it's consistent. I didn't even think I thought tonight he could have had 40. Like, he missed some easy looks around the basket. He missed some free throws. He missed a layup that Kata put back in that he was kind of looking at himself like, how did I miss that? But it's pretty apparent to me that he has kind of figured out the game. And it's not that he hasn't before. I mean, this is a guy that's been second-team All-NBA. This is a guy that's been a Finals MVP. Like, the accolades were there. But again, the questions persisted around what was it going to look like when he didn't have his co-star beside him. And those questions have been resolved through 23 games. And the reason that gives me confidence, like, I could sit here every single game and talk about, Jaylen had a great game, Jaylen looked awesome, Jaylen put up numbers, Jaylen was unstoppable. I could say that after every single game. But I'm starting to think big picture. In a playoff series, there's a really good chance that Jaylen Brown could be the best player in a playoff series, because on a nightly basis, he has been the best player on the floor most nights, right? Not every single night, I would say, especially in those first few games where the team really struggled, he wasn't. Maybe against the Wolves, Anthony Edwards maybe got the best of him. He was a little bit more efficient, but other than that, Jaylen has been the best player on the floor on an every single night basis. And that's something that I think the Celtics didn't know was going to be the deal going into the year. Like, you lost Tatum. Do you still have, like, the edge in the superstar column, right? And I think they do. And I don't think that he's shooting lights out. He was about 34% from 3 entering tonight. He had 3 consecutive threes in that third quarter that really kind of helped put the Lakers away. But I don't think he's playing above his weight. I don't think he's punching above his weight. I don't think he's shooting at a clip that he's just not going to be able to sustain. And that's one of the things that's been really impressive to me. So he comes out of the gate. He picked up 4 assists like in the first few minutes of this game, where he's just driving, dishing it out to Jordan Walsh in the dunker spot, or Neemias Queta, or kicking it out for a Derrick White or a Peyton Pritchard 3. Like, the chemistry is building. I asked Joe Mazzulla about it after the game, and he acknowledged there's a little bit of shooting luck, but I think for the most part, you can sense that things are clicking, things are gelling, and now this team has a top 3 rated offense through 23 games. Like, that is mind-blowing to me. I never would have projected that, and I was high on this team entering the season. I had them winning 45 games, and even still, like, they are exceeding my expectations. And when I asked Pritchard about the offensive ratings post-game, and he was kind of taken aback when I mentioned that they were 3rd in offensive rating, because he feels like they have another level that they can reach. And honestly, watching them play, I feel the same, because I still don't think that everybody has maximized their individual potential. Peyton Pritchard and Derrick White, they're trending upwards from their shooting. Tonight was another night in that direction, especially Derrick, who hit some big ones. He's looking for threes in his pockets, like his classic celebration. All that's good to see, but for the most part, it doesn't feel like this offense has been punching above its weight. And I think that was Peyton's reaction as well when I asked him that, is, he didn't expect them to be top 3 because he feels like they can get to another gear. So this Lakers game was not the most exciting game to be in the building for. Honestly, I felt like it was a little bit lackluster because of the absences and because the early run was so early. Like, it was just out of the gates. They go on a massive tear here and build up this lead and never really look back. Like, the Lakers never really made a legitimate push, and sometimes that can kind of suck the life out of the building a little bit. But the things that are running through my head as I was watching this one is, what if this team is legit? Like, what if it's not just about staying afloat and being a 500 team and hoping to win some play-in games? Like, they are beating good teams that are with their stars. They're beating teams they're supposed to beat, and they're doing it in all different ways. And the fact that Jaylen has been so consistent, like, he's had maybe 1 or 2 bad games all season long. That's the most impressive thing, encouraging thing for me, because you need your superstar to be consistent, right? The difference between a superstar and an all-star, or an all-star and a good player, is consistency, right? Can you do it every single night? NBA coaches talk about that all the time. It's what separates guys that get paid and guys that don't, right? It's what separates guys that are in the league and guys that have to go overseas, is, can you do it on a regular basis? And right now, Jaylen is doing it on a regular basis. And even if he's not having the best shooting game, which tonight he didn't, he's finding ways to impact the game in other ways. And I think he was 10 of 22 from the field. So it wasn't like he had a bad shooting game, right? But certainly I think he's capable of even more efficient performances, which is encouraging to see. Just want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. It is the holiday season, the best time of the year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It is all happening at once. And while you and I are here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right: PrizePicks. PrizePicks is available in California. It's available in Massachusetts. I downloaded the app. I've been playing ever since, and it's particularly fun to pick basketball players. Obviously, there have been a ton of players that are having career years between the Celtics, Jaylen Brown. Somebody who's really stood out to me is Austin Reeves, Josh Giddey in Chicago, also having a monster season. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. On PrizePicks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose FlexPay, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups. After you play your first $5 lineup, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And you can't talk about this game without talking about Jordan Walsh. 48 hours ago, Jordan Walsh's career high was 14 points, and that was a mark that he set on Sunday against the Cavs, right? He has 22 points on the first night of a back-to-back against the Wizards on 8 of 8 shooting, and then he follows that up with a 17-point performance against this team on 6 of 7 shooting. He has made 18 of his last 19 field goals. And even still, we've talked about it. We talked about it last night after the Wizards game. He is not motivated by his offense. That is not what gets him going. He barely notices it. That's what he said to me the other night. And that's not kind of what gets him up in the morning. It's the defense. It's the stops. It's the steals. It's getting the Austin Reeves assignment and locking him up in the stretches that he was able to do that. But I can't help but think, if the offense comes around, is this a guy that can give you 15 a night? Is this a guy that can stretch the floor? I mean, he was 4 of 5 from 3 tonight, and granted, they're wide open looks, but they're wide open looks because teams are right now not really respecting him as a shooter. They're going to have to start respecting him soon. We saw this with Al Horford, with guys that you have to concede something. So either Al Horford's going to get his open looks, or teams are going to have to go out and guard him in the perimeter, and that opens things up for everybody else, right? So Jordan's kind of in that zone right now. Josh Minot is shooting 43% from 3. It's pretty remarkable to watch his shooting evolution right over the last few years. And I asked him about it. He said it's opportunity meets preparation, right? So I'm looking big picture, and I'm thinking about Jordan Walsh as a perennial starter for this team, as a perennial role player. What is his ceiling? I don't want to get crazy here, but back-to-back games now where he's not only defending his tail off and really harassing opposing team stars, but also putting up points, right, and being not a liability at all on defense, but on offense, but actually an asset, right? He went scoreless in that game against the Wolves. That was the game where Jaylen Brown explodes for 41, has that massive first half. And then one of the things that stuck out after that one is, yeah, you needed more from Derrick White and Peyton Pritchard, but also one of your starters was 0 for 2 scoreless, right? Jordan is never going to, right now, they're not running plays for Jordan. They're not going to try to get him looks. But if he's in the right spot and players around him are making the right reads, he could easily give you 15 points a night. And we're seeing that. It was pretty remarkable to me that one night after setting his career high, he has the second highest career scoring game. So the biggest surprise from the season for me has been Jordan Walsh, just because he was out of the rotation a month ago. I didn't know if he was even going to play. I didn't know where he ranked and stacked up against Baylor Shireman and Ugo and Josh and all these guys that can give you some similar things. But he has been pretty perfect for them over these past few weeks, and I don't say that lightly, because he's been crashing the glass, he's been versatile as a defender, he's been making the right plays, he's been taking good care of the ball. He has just been kind of providing an all-around game, and I think the big telltale sign of that is Joe Mazzulla is willing to kind of just praise him at the podium, and Joe doesn't like to do that after 1 or 2 good games from a role player, right? I think he feels like Jordan's earned it, and Jaylen kind of joked with us post-game, don't gas him up too much, we don't want him to get cute, we want him to keep kind of doing the things that he has to do. But it's back-to-back nights here where he has been one of the most valuable players on the floor. When he goes into foul trouble in this game, Austin Reeves picked on Baylor Shireman a little bit, he picked on Sam Hauser, whoever else it might be, but when Jordan was out there, Austin was not comfortable, and Jordan is a pretty disciplined defender, especially for a guy that has pretty limited NBA experience. So that was one other takeaway from this game, is that he follows up last night's game and just continues the scoring, and he's going to have more defensive matchups. It's fun to watch because now when I'm seeing the Raptors on the schedule for Sunday, I'm like, oh, who are they going to put Jordan on? Probably Brandon Ingram, but like, how is he going to fare? Probably good, because he's fared well against almost every defender that every offensive player that he's gone up against in this stretch, right? Since the beginning of November, he's been tasked with guarding Tyrese Maxey, Jaren Jackson, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, like all of these guys, Cade Cunningham, Donovan Mitchell, and like he's just done a really good job night in and night out. This was the best superstar performance against the Celtics in a long time, Austin Reeves, and he did do a lot of the damage when Jordan was sidelined. I mean, if you think about it, Jalen Brunson struggled against the Celtics. Donovan Mitchell didn't do much through most of that game. Like, this is becoming routine now that opposing team stars are stifled, and Jordan is a big part of why. And so it's not just about tonight, but it's a consistent voice in my head of like, can this guy become a Jaden McDaniels type player? Can he become an all defensive style wing? I think so. I mean, and again, it's been a month of basketball, so I'm holding out, like saying that as a definitive take, but it's how I'm starting to feel, if I'm being truthful. And tonight was another moment that made me, another kind of feather in his cap, another moment where made me kind of feel that way. So we'll see how it all plays out here over the next few weeks. He has more assignments coming his way. He's going to start being more well scouted. Teams are going to start learning his tendencies as a defender and trying to exploit those. I don't really know what those are right now because he's been more disciplined than I expected him to be. He's more disciplined than Ugo is right now, which makes sense. Ugo's a rookie. I think Ugo maybe has higher upside. I don't know. It's really hard to compare these guys. And honestly, I'm trying to get out of the habit of doing that because it's just a strength that they have so many guys in this department. So again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but another night where Jordan Walsh just continues to blow your mind of just how quickly he's becoming better and better each and every night. And the last thing I'll mention is, I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, but Derrick White felt like he had turned a corner, entering this back-to-back stretch. He was averaging 20 points per game, shooting 40% from three. That's continuing. He has another night tonight that's a big offensive night. Defensively, he's active. And the three-point shot, not just that it's going down, but that he's looking forward. His body language is positive. He got a really nice bounce today. He's doing his three-point celebration. They need that from him. His shooting numbers were an aberration to start the year. It never made any sense that he was shooting as poorly as he was from all over the floor. I think he was getting in his own head, and it was kind of this thing that was piling up. The corner has officially turned. I think that happened about a week or two ago, and it's just building from night to night that his confidence is back. He's moving a little bit different. He's moving a little bit more joyfully out there, and that's what this team needed. They needed him to be at his best. It might not be an all-NBA level player the way that some of us projected, but it is a darn good basketball player that can do a lot for them in every way, right? And the defensive impact has been there since the beginning of the year, but the offense has come around and everything else has as well. So, again, this matchup, I'm not going to draw too much from a game that a Lakers team was, coming on the second night of a back-to-back as well. They were missing two of their best players. But I'm also not going to write it off as like, oh, the Lakers were on the second night of a back-to-back, because, hey, so were the Celtics. And yes, they were out, they were without Luka and LeBron, and they're, two of the three most important players on this team, most likely. They still have a lot of good basketball players, and those basketball players were contained. And that's a really hard thing to do in the NBA because everybody knows that guys look at this kind of night as an opportunity for themselves to get going. So Celtics are 14-9. It's 4 straight wins. They have definitely turned a corner as a team where everything is starting to click. They still have room for improvement. I think the rebounding is something that will remain on kind of at the forefront of my mind. The front court rotation, I'm not quite sure about. How sustainable is the role player shooting? We'll see. We'll see if Josh Minot and Jordan and Ugo and Baylor can continue shooting at the rate that they've been shooting. But I don't feel like the success is a fluke. I don't feel like they're just on a hot, Joe called it shooting luck. I don't feel like it's luck per se. I do think they're getting really good looks and clean looks, and the offense is meshing and gelling and all of that. So we'll see how it all plays out. I won't be in Toronto. I just came back from this Wizards game, but we will have coverage post game as always on the Garden Report. I'll have my podcast after the Raptors game. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. That's one of the only kind of top teams in the East that the Celtics have not faced. Miami is another one that kind of stands out as a team that's exceeded expectations. So we'll see how all of that plays out. But another good win. We're starting to pile these up. I thought that this podcast was going to be a lot of looking for positives amid losses, but it really hasn't been that, and that's been a lot of fun to see.